just trying to get to you. Feels like I'm running in slow motion. Feels like I'm an outsider on the inside. If I disappear, will you even notice? Look in the mirror, see what I see. You need to get help, you deserve to be free. Somewhere between the sky and perfection, I wait for you, take care of me.
Peace and greetings, family. You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM. This is PJ's show, and I'm your host, Pojanee PJ Fleury. We have another amazing show for you this week. We are speaking to Dr. Kim Best. She is a community organizer, advocate. You can put any word in there. She is doing it and has been doing it for quite some time. She is a pillar of the community, and she is based in Brooklyn, New York, of course, and it's just really inspiring learning about a woman of her caliber. I am so happy that she is with us today, and we're going to find out more about what she's doing and also how maybe you can be involved in these activities. It's really great stuff. So we are pleased to welcome Dr. Kim Best to the show.
Yes, welcome as well. Yes, this is Dr. Kim Best. I'm live, and it's an honor to get interviewed by PJ Magazine today, and we're just excited about the partnership and what we're looking to do in the community. As mentioned a few minutes ago, I am a community advocate, organizer, and just a community resident for 54 years. So I've been out here a long time. And my mission is to continue to bring empowerment, mentoring, partnerships, and just working with people in general. So, again, yeah.
That's really inspiring. 54 years. Not a lot of people have the strength and the energy to really stay in the community because we're dealing with sometimes very difficult and sensitive issues. So how do you stay motivated?
Well, one of the things that what I've learned through the legacy of my parents, I have actually been working with people for, again, 54 years. And I give thanks to my parents who was also a community advocate as well. My mother was really a big advocate for the children, and my father was another advocate for the children. So between the two of them, as a family, they raised over 100 children, in about 30, 40 years of just living here in New York City. What motivates me is that I have a love of working with people. I don't know I don't know how I can really explain it, but it's like a drug. I'm driven to helping people. So I'm one of those few people that can go just about anywhere and fit in. And with any ethnic group, any faith, and so forth. So, and I realized that I just enjoy people, working with people, meeting people, mentoring people, learning from people, and just having a great time.
That is really wonderful. That is probably what makes you, just so special. I came to visit you and I saw so many accolades that you've received over the years, certificates and trophies and plaques. That is really just so amazing. Not a lot of people can say that they have been consistent, at the work that you're doing. So we're very blessed to have you in the community doing the work, and there have been many others. And there's those that, good intentions, they get in there, but sometimes it's just like a overwhelming situation where, sometimes people face burnout. So what would you say, what's your advice, to those that may feel that kind of overwhelming, sense when they're doing this type of work?
Well, let me just say this. This type of work is not something that you just get up in the morning and you decide you want to do this. This type of work is something that is built from a foundation, okay, a strategy, a module. When I begin to do the big events like National Night Out, I'm getting ready to do a big event in the fall with Power Women. I have to kind of planning and strategy is everything. When you begin to plan and put things into order, you will find out that things will start to flow. Organizing and planning is not an easy job. Not everybody can do this. You got to have a gift, or it has to be something that over the years that you have mastered. So my recommendation for anyone that is really seeking to organize any big events or to just work in the community as an advocate is, number one, know what you're getting ready to get into. Okay, know the topic, know how it makes sense in terms of like a woman empowerment. What's the meaning of that? How can we better improve that? Who are the players or who are the participants of those events? When we go into National Night Out, which is another big event, that's an event that deals with policing and community working together. What's the meaning of that event? How can we collaborate in terms of policing and the community? As you probably have read over the years, police brutality, gangs involvement, which we have been dealing with that for years. The killings of innocent people, and basically, how do we educate our people? And one of the things is just sitting down and speaking to people like myself and others who have been the pillars in the community. It takes a village to educate a young adult. And I want to add also, a lot of times with young adults, they come from dysfunctional families. Sometimes the father's not present, the mother's not. A lot of times both parents are deceased. And that young adult is just left here to try to survive or make things better for themselves. So that would be my recommendation. Before you decide to get into community advocacy or to organize, do a little bit of research on the topic and the meaning of why you're getting ready to do it.
Absolutely. Great advice. And we were speaking about young people because we both work with young people and empowering that community. And you mentioned what you just spoke about in our conversation as well. And I thought that was a very, very good point. We forget that, and especially when we're seeing things on social media, and even on the news, these young people, especially like in Brooklyn, they did this, this horrible thing. There's video, it's going viral, it's all over the place, and some people can say, what's wrong with them? And, even we might have a tendency to say, well, they need, where's their parents? Well, do they have parents? That is a very good point to keep in mind when we're dealing with young people, especially if it's kind of like a random community setting where we put, let's just say, a table out on a street corner, and we want to outreach to them, and we're not getting a response. Well, maybe our approach is not correct. That is not the right way to get their attention, to engage them. We have to understand where they're coming from. So if we're thinking, oh, their parent didn't teach, and they don't have parents or stable parents, that's really where the problem lies, and we need to understand how we can lift them up. You're saying it takes a village to influence and mold one young person. So imagine how many young people are in New York City, how many young people are across the country. And there are many countries now, because of recent things, climate change, disease, things like that. There are many countries around the world where the population, the majority, is under like 40. So there's a huge population of young people across the world that unfortunately do not have that strong family structure.
That is correct. And we have to also understand that we have to also provide the resources. The resources, a lot of times they are here, but a lot of times we don't know where to locate the resources. And that's a challenge for young adults. That's a challenge. I can tell you that over the years, there were so many young adults who did not even have a high school diploma. Okay? And one of the programs that I deal with provides high school diplomas. So I was able to encourage them to go back to school, get their education, and quite a few of them did. Some went on to college, and some went on to a trade school. And I can actually say today that some great role models who have made it through the trials and tribulations, especially those young adults who have been incarcerated. The average young person that goes through the system is around 16 years old. So they get a felony, they go become incarcerated. The average time in prison is usually around 4 to 5 years, unless they murder someone. And then when they come out, we are the resources. And depending on why they was incarcerated, you don't want them to come back and repeat that same crime. A lot of times, most of the times, with the young adults, is dealing with the drugs. Okay? It's dealing with situations where they don't have the money. So the only way that they can try to make ends meet in most cases is robbing, killing, or even selling drugs. And that's unfortunate. And that's why it's the responsibility of the community, which is the village, to we know we can't save everyone, but if we can save one or two of the young adults, we have fought the fight in terms of making sure that they can make it.
We are so blessed. There, I know you've touched more than one young person, and I know it's probably, many, many young people. So we thank you for that. We honor you for that. Those accolades are much, much deserved. So please tell us your organizations the statuses that you hold in the community, if you would like to share that as well, and what you're currently doing in terms of those organizations' mission.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the organizations that I am the CEO and founder of. I am the CEO and founder of a chaplaincy, which is called Healing Hearts Chaplaincy Ministries Incorporated. And the chaplaincy was formulated in 2018, where there was a need for us to engage in chaplaincy in our communities. And one of the reasons was basically the churches were not building up the kingdom, and people were just not coming to church for whatever reason. For whatever reason. You know, and as a result of that, a lot of the churches, remember, Brooklyn is the county of churches. And what started to happen right here in Brooklyn, churches was beginning to close. Churches were starting to collaborate with other churches. And just say if you had a church that had like 5,000 members, today you walk into that church on a Sunday, you may only see 10 to 20 members. And you say to yourself, what is happening? Where the church was always a place where people went to pray, to think about their problems and troubles. But now the churches are empty. So how do we deal with what is going on now? So the answer is the chaplaincy. The answer is going on the streets to meet the people, having conversations with people, understanding some of the problems that people are facing. Unfortunately, some of the churches, and I don't want to call anybody out because I don't want to be hit with a lawsuit or liability, but some of the churches are not teaching. You know, I've spoken to so many people, they don't even understand what the fivefold ministry is all about. You know, how it starts, what does it involve, you know, what is prayer, what is scripture. People are not educated to those different things that they should know. A lot of time with some of the pastors, it's about greed. It's about, you know, making money and getting your tithes. But we need to help the people. We need to help the people. And it's shameful, you know, even with myself being into the ministry, I see it all the time with some of these pastors. So people, you know, they're lost. A lot of people, you'd be surprised, do not have church homes. They do not. But what I found is that they will come to the chaplaincy. They will be able to know that the chaplains can go into the prisons, go into the hospitals, go and do hospice and do community assignments. And to date, I have nearly, maybe a little bit over 400 chaplains. And these chaplains are in different states, different countries, and just here locally. So I'm thankful for that. That's the first organization. The second organization is Power Women in Community Building. This was formulated in 2019, and because COVID came into 2020, we had to put Power Women in Community Building on hold because we had a pandemic. And the mission of Power Women and Community Building is to engage powerful women into building communities. And a lot of times, when we think about Shirley Chisholm, we think about Michelle Obama, we think about some of the great women who have led the way for us to be able to empower our communities. It was necessary for us to formulate this organization. So this year, sometime in the fall, we are planning to showcase some of the most powerful women or women who have shown community building in their areas and community, and let people know who they are, and also to show gratitude to their efforts that they have made in our community. The third organization that's it's going to be formulated as a foundation, but it's really not new because that was one of the first things that I did many years ago, and that's the Movers and Shakers Foundation of New York. And that was, the paperwork is just formally recently done, but the whole layout was thought of many years ago, at least 10 years ago. And the mission of that is that we are the voices of the people. We are the ones that have to move and shake certain agendas. And as you know, power is in numbers. Power is not in single. And that's one of the things that I learned very early. You cannot advocate or address any situation with just one or two people. You have to have numbers. And based on the happenings and what's going on, just in our government, just in our lifestyles and the cost of living. I mean, just living here in New York is so expensive. I mean, just to rent an apartment goes anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 per month, depending on where you go. How are we surviving? How can we change the laws? So those are the areas that we would pretty much focus on and address to our public officials, our elected officials, in terms of moving and shaking legislators and making the right decisions for our communities. Those are the three main organizations that I represent. However, as a community advocate, I serve on several different committees and organizations. The first organization, I am the president of the Precinct Community Council at the 7-9 precinct for about 35, 36 years. And basically, my responsibility is to bring policing and community together to address the issues in the community. Again, police brutality, speak to the commissioner, speak to the inspector, and finding ways on how we can improve our communities. The other biggest organization is the hospitals. I am chairman for Brooklyn Hospital Advisory Board, and it is important for the quality of care that we're getting. A lot of people go into the hospitals and they don't come out. Some of our hospitals are not equipped enough with the high-tech technology. Two, shortage of staff in the communities. Today, going into the hospitals, you must have a family member or somebody going on and checking on you every day. If not, your medical care can be very questionable. So my purpose of being a chairman for advisory board is to advise the CEO and make sure that people coming into the hospital receive the quality of care needed. And the others I'll just name. Community Board 3, I am the chairperson for the senior committee. On an international level, I am a former governor for the National Association of Business and Professional Women. Newly appointed position as international diplomat for world peace and humanitarianism. Also, ambassador for African heritage, UN for women, and the ladies of all nations, and of course, belong to Lions International. And there's so many more that I belong to. But one thing I learned, you got to be in it to make a change. If you're not in it, you can't solve a solution. And that's what people fail to realize. We can sit around, we can criticize, we can talk about it, but what are we doing? How are we addressing these issues today? So I'm a little a busy bee, but I enjoy each and every time. People say to me, well, how do you find the time to participate in all of these different entities? Well, it's about planning and strategy and knowing what your priorities that you're going to deal from day to day or month to month.
That is impressive, to say the least. That is the least I can say about that. Oh my gosh. Like, just blown away, honestly. When you are so important to so many different communities, it's really, it's something to wear with pride. And you just embody women empowerment. And it's really, for me, I keep using the word inspiring. It's really inspiring for me to see and to know that great women like you are there to lead the way. There's, of course, there's others that we can name, especially coming out of Brooklyn, the late great Viola Plummer. Depending on, there's, different work she did on different levels. But these are, foundation. These are people, just have been really at the forefront of the community issues, like really in the community, sleeves rolled up. And for me, just seeing women like you all, it just says to me that I can do it. And I don't have to stay maybe in one area, but I can support as many organizations as the Most High will give me the energy, to do so. So for me, this is definitely motivating. This is a motivation right here to keep doing the work. And it's so, you definitely help to solidify for me in my mind why we need this, why we need people that are willing to put their all out there, fit the community. Again, like we're saying, it takes a village just to influence and bring positivity to one person. So imagine how many millions of our own people here in our own local communities, right? I'm not sure of the exact, amount here in New York City, but in terms of residents who might just need any type of assistance or anything, there's about 9 million residents just here in New York City alone, and many of whom are not in that, 1 or 5%. But, at the top there that are doing very, very well. There's, some people in the middle, but the majority right now in New York City from many different communities, different walks of life are facing some kind of challenge. And it's a big job, and we want to be there. We want to ensure that this could be a community where people feel safe, where people want to live, right? Well, I think people want to live here. It's just a matter of like the quality of life, right?
Mhm.
And we want to make sure that people are having at least a chance to experience the great quality of life that everyone is striving for. And so one of the things that you mentioned is housing in New York
Yes.
City.
Mhm.
And often people bring it up as an issue to work on. I know several city council members are working diligently on that. I've been paying attention to that conversation, but I'm just very curious as to what, if anything, could be done about the housing crisis in New York City.
Well, you got a number of things that's going on. You have these developers that are coming into our communities, and they are developing. And if you just look around, you see development all over the city. And one of the things that have been asked upon some of these developers is to provide affordable housing. But affordable housing for the average person living like in Bed-Stuy is not conducive to what the developer is offering. So a lot of times people cannot afford what the developer is offering as affordable housing. Sometimes they have lotteries, whereas if you get the lottery, then you'll be able to get an apartment or a unit, and they'll try to work based on your salary or what you can really afford. The other thing is that we're living in different times now. Our area, I can only talk about the Bedford-Stuyvesant, but I'll talk about New York City as a whole. We have a couple of situations. We have the immigrants coming in. They don't have nowhere to live. We're overpopulated, number one. And the politicians are even split in their in their decisions on how to deal with the communities. So we have Democrats, we have Republicans, and we have the socialists, and then we have what you call the liberals, and they're all mixed up in our community. Okay, and when you take the average person that's only making $50,000, maybe less than that, where can they go and live? It's either got to be in the housing development, or they're living in someone's house where they've been there for years, and the rent is Section 8 or have been regulated. But then once that all is eliminated, where can they go? They can't go anywhere. So what they end up doing is relocating to maybe other areas that are affordable. I mean, there was a time where everybody was just going up to the Bronx because the rent was affordable. Okay? Now, even going up there, the rents are not affordable. So there's a couple of efforts that's happening. The politicians, they only can do but so much based on the city council and what's happening there. And the same issues that we're dealing with right here, and I would say my area, is the same issues that's happening in similar areas, especially like up in Harlem, especially out in the Bronx, in different places. Now, areas like even Bay Ridge, they have a little bit of different, but you have a whole different clientele out there. You know what I mean? And because of the different type of clientele, you will have different elected officials. They will handle situations a little different. Why? Is because of the geographic area that they live in. It's the same thing, for instance. If you want to get a rental car, you want to get, and you're living in a certain area, your insurance will be much higher than if you was living somewhere else. You got it? So these are the same situations that we are faced with here living in certain communities. We have a lot of underprivileged people here, people that's not documented that's here. So we're overly populated. So that's why you constantly see developers coming in and they're making money just building, but they're not affordable for the community.
I have so many more questions. We're going to take a break, and I'm going to ask you those things when we come back. This is WHCR 90.3 FM.
Try to stop me. I'll kick down the door. I'll kick down the door. Don't try to stop me. I'll kick down the door. Kick down the door. You're looking in the eyes of a warrior woman. You're looking in the eyes of a warrior woman. You're looking in the eyes of a warrior woman. In my eyes, you will see determination. In my eyes, you will see courage. In my eyes, you will see hope. In my eyes, you will see triumph. In my eyes, you will see resistance. In my eyes, you will see me. Don't try to stop me. I'll kick down the door. Kick down the door. Don't try to stop me. I'll kick down the door. I'll kick down the door. Yeah. You're looking in the eyes of a warrior woman. You're looking in the eyes of a warrior woman. You're looking in the eyes of a warrior woman. In my eyes, you will see love. Even after everything, so much love. I am simple yet so complex. I am strong, but I've shed many tears, fighting off demons for many years, taking on and winning against my fears. So don't try me, so don't try me, so don't try to stop me. I'll kick down the door, kick down the door. Don't try to stop me. I'll kick down the door, kick down the door.
Welcome back, family. This is WHCR 90.3 FM. You're listening to PJ's show, and I'm your host, Pojanee PJ Fleury. Today, we are speaking to Dr. Kim Beth, and she is a community leader, advocate, organizer in the Brooklyn area, also just New York City as a whole, and internationally as well. And we have been having a very serious discussion about the issues in our community. This is serious work that we are involved with and doing. Um, I my my I guess the topics that I focus on are a little bit different. I address health, of course, holistic health. I'm addressing mental health. Also, from a long time, I've been involved with police brutality movements and responses, and also homelessness and that population, and working on their needs. And it's been a very rewarding experience to work on these important community issues. And there are many others. Dr. Kim Bess, we were discussing your efforts on the housing issue, and you touched a little bit on the migrant issue. There are so many issues in our community that kind of going on all at the same time, and not only locally, but there's so much going on nationally, internationally. This is an election year, and so I have a few questions for you. So one of the questions that I have is with the changes that are happening in New York City, and we see this, not to say this is Mayor Eric Adams specifically, I've seen these kind of changes happening from about a decade ago. Congestive pricing is not new. This is something that has been on the table, that's been discussed, and had been passed in previous administrations. So with congestive pricing, below 60th, there's a toll in Manhattan specifically, below 60th, a new toll to drive into that area. There's exorbitant rates for rent. Developers coming in from, seemingly nowhere. We don't know these developers, right? They're not coming to regular people and saying, hey, we would like to develop your area. These are things, because sometimes forces that we have no idea about, and they're making plans in our own community, shaping our own communities. We have situations like parking, just if you get a ticket, most times, I remember I've been driving in New York City a long time. The same ticket that used to be like $85 is $115 now. Inflation, just in general, the cost of living in New York City, some of the highest sales tax in the country. So is there an effort, you think, to price people out? You mentioned before the break, you made a good point about the city being overpopulated, right? There's probably 9 million documented people and probably 2 more million that are undocumented, right? Before the migrants were being shipped here from Texas and everything. So do you feel that there is a conscious effort to raise the amount that people would need to survive in New York City to do just that, to depopulate it?
Well, I can answer that question probably in a number of ways.
Okay.
Well, number one, we are overpopulated. In terms of our mayor, he just got dealt the wrong deal. Mayors that was in place before him had a lot more resources to work with. Taxes are going way above. Okay. Section 8 programs are slowly being eliminated. Um, uh, people, homeowners that have their own homes, they're faced with tenants not paying their rent, going back and forth to court, and vice versa. You have tenants that can't just pay the rent because they don't have the money. I mean, to live here in New York is very, very expensive. You can go to a place like Costa Rica, you can go to different places, and you can take $200,000 and end up with a mansion. But you can't do that here in New York City. My home right here, my parents' home right here is worth $3.0 million. As you go down, say like in Park Slope, or you go down across the bridge, those homes are like 7 to 8, maybe $10 million. Okay, people cannot pay that. Are they looking to move people out of New York? Oh, absolutely, because people just cannot afford this cost of living raise. Uh, that's why even a couple of years ago, they even decided to give people that even work for places like the food uh, chain a raise in their salary. Those people was getting like one time $10 an hour. They had to raise at least to $20 because the cost of living is so expensive. The other area is this. When these developers come here in our communities, they are supposed to come to the community board, which some of them do and some of them don't. And they are to present, because I also serve on Community Board 3. They are supposed to present to the community what's coming up. Will there be any affordable housing? And the same thing goes with the businesses. Will they hire people that live in our community, or will they hire for somebody outside? These are all the questions that the community boards, why people come to the community board. You talked about mental illness. Mental illness is the number one concern in New York City. I mean, you have people, different stages of mental illness. I happen to have worked in mental illness pretty much all my life because I had a sister that had a disability. But I actually worked as a director for the mental health for at least 13, 14 years. And I can tell you the different stages. Okay, you have the low functional clients where they cannot walk or talk, and they are placed in specialized units or residential homes. And then you have the ones that are moderate, that can understand somewhat, but they still require attention. And then you have the high functional one that most of the time they get to work with different agencies, different organizations. Some get a salary, some get a stipend. And then you have the average person that is so stressed with the cost of living that he has a breakdown to the fact that how is he or she going to support their family? You know, we have today more pantry, because I actually did a pantry for 3 or 4 years, and I can tell you there were so many people that needed food. After they pay their rent, they have no money to eat. They have no money to go to the hospital to take care of their medical needs. So the question is that how can we help these people? what resources are out there that can really help? When you talk about resources, then you go into the senior population. Senior population, they're suffering. Their Social Security check cannot anymore pay for their rental. So we're facing hard times. There's no such thing as underprivileged anymore because everybody's being affected. Even people that have decent jobs, they are struggling. They're living from paycheck to paycheck. So we have to press on our legislators, our elected officials, to really go in there and fight to try to bring the quality of life and make some changes. And again, this is the reason why the Movers and Shakers Foundation was formulated, because we must be the voices of the people. We must address these issues. When you go out, you see more homeless people on the street. You understand? These more homeless people. I actually was driving up to Harlem the other day, and I saw at least 2 homeless people, and I wanted to stop and just not even give them money, but give them the clothing and so forth. And then lastly, we're facing one pandemic after another pandemic. We don't know who has COVID. We don't know what strain we have. People are going into the hospital. They're not coming out. More people are really starting to get into holistic medicine because they're finding out a lot of the regular medicines are really affecting people in different ways. Some of the medication will help you and some of it will not. It will go and create other situations. Okay? So we have to be very mindful on really how our lives are being surrounded and taken. So you really talked about some really major concerns that we have to check out every day. I mean, even for me, I find myself struggling sometimes because every time I get a bill, the bill is like double. I got a bill from National Grid was $1,000. I'm like, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you have another bill coming in, and then you have a thing called scammers. You got people scamming people, and these scammers they're professional. This is their craft. If they can make $1 or $2 million a day, they will do it. I got scammed for $20,000.
Oh my gosh.
Okay? And it was only because I was trying to help somebody in the ministry. Imagine that.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I had a person that was calling me, crying every night. And then, as a humanitarian, which I am, you want to be able to try to assist where you can. But in the midst of assisting, I got scammed. And then you got these investors that are also scammers. Okay? They get you involved with projects, and it's all set up for scam. These people are professional when I tell you.
Yeah.
And they work in teams. It's not just one person. It's a team working together. So then you say to yourself, boy, I'm scared to do anything because I don't know what's going to come back and haunt me, hit me. So, I mean, that's my view on some of those things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I have so many more questions, so you're just going to have to come back. It's been a pleasure. Best before I let you go, can you please let us know how we can support you and get in touch with you?
Well, I have my website up, healingheartchaplaincy.com. That's my website. I also have the website for Power Women. And you can always try to contact me on Facebook. And basically, what we need to do, we need to mold and we need to mentor people in community advocacy. You know, I mean, when I look at myself, I'm going to be 66 years old. Okay? I don't know how many more years God is going to give me faithfully, but we need to start mentoring our young people, placing them in position for community advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Dr. Best. And we will be back same time, same place here on WHCR 90.3 FM. Peace.
Peace.
The universe will make you work for it, show your potential to go after a dream. You have to be quite mental, believing in yourself when the world says give up. The only thing we giving up is light. It's up